Hey up everyone! So continuing the Cannes Film Festival coverage, today's movie I'm discussing on the channel is one of the more anticipated titles from the Un Cetian Regard section. It's actually one of three notable actor turned directors, and I'm going to be talking about the debut feature of Kristen Stewart called The Chronology of Water, which is an adaptation of the memoir by Lydia Yuknavitch. In this film, Imogen Poots plays Lydia, and we see her life play out through 5 different chapters, from early childhood all the way up to when she finally writes the memoir. I knew nothing about this person before watching this film. This was my first introduction to who Lydia Yuknavitch was. But she had a hard life. She was a victim of sexual abuse from her own father. She struggled with addiction, and she also lost her first child during childbirth. It was a stillbirth. This film explores themes of trauma, loss, sexuality, and identity. But really, this is a story of a woman coming into her own self and finding her voice. And I suppose you could classify this film as a biopic, but it's far from anything resembling a conventional biopic. And it is admirable, this approach that Kristen Stewart has taken to adapting Lydia's story. Most first-time filmmakers probably would have opted for something a little bit more safer or pedestrian for their first feature, but not Kristen Stewart. Instead, Kristen Stewart decides to tell the story through a method that's more fractal and elliptical. Different segments bleed and overlap into one another. Dialogue from her past reverberates into future sequences to demonstrate the trauma that has stayed with her into adulthood. And often it's shot in this very jumpy, very scratchy looking way. It's kind of like we're getting flashes into her mind, like vivid memories of her past. It's admirable, but is it good filmmaking? Honestly, this film wasn't really to my taste. There's no doubt that Kristen Stewart has directorial chops, okay? She definitely had a vision for this film, and I can see why some people enjoyed it, and I can also see why other people disliked it. There was actually quite a lot of walkouts in the screening in Cannes, which I was in, and I understand why. It's an intentionally artsy-fartsy type of film. Having your protagonist narrate the story in very vague, abstract, and poetic statements can feel quite pretentious, and it can also be quite tedious for the audience because there's a lot for them to decipher. This film does ask a lot of you as a viewer, and not everyone wants that from a film. And quite frankly, it does kind of read like a student film at times. Like, I've seen many student films just like this, which are cryptic, ambiguous, there's lots of artistic imagery in them, lots of cuts, and you can tell there's a lot of passion behind it, but the filmmaker hasn't quite mastered their craft yet. And also, the filmmakers often don't have the platform or the name recognition or the cachet of someone like Kristen Stewart, so their work's not getting into prestigious film festivals like Cannes. So while I do think Kristen Stewart shows promise as a director, and I applaud her for jumping in at the deep end with such an ambitious and thematically heavy project for her first ever feature, I do think there is still room for her to grow as a filmmaker. This just very much feels like someone's first film. I will say that Imogen Poots delivers a fantastic performance as Lydia. She's on screen for like 85% of the time, okay? This really is her movie. And she's really thrown herself off the cliff into the water, plunged herself into this role without checking to see how deep the water was in the first place. It's a performance which is brave, raw, and incredibly vulnerable for Poots, and I do think she is a bit of an underrated actress. She deserves to be in more projects. Thira Birch is also in this film. She plays Lydia's sister Claudia. She was really good in this. And just in case any of you are wondering, Kristen Stewart does not make a cameo in this film. But also Jim Belushi has a small part in this as this overzealous and at times slightly inappropriate novelist and writing teacher called Ken Kesey. He had a profound impact on Lydia as a writer. Honestly, I've not seen Jim Belushi in anything for like maybe 10 years, but genuinely, this has to be one of his best performances to date, okay? It's only a small supporting role, but like, he really gives it his all. Some of you might be wondering, does The Chronology of Water stand any chance of like getting some awards recognition? Gotta say, no guys, when you watch this film you understand, okay, this is not an Oscars movie, because it's one of those films which just isn't gonna have broad appeal. So let's ask them 3 questions. Firstly, would I watch it again? Honestly, no. I found this film to be quite a slog. I acknowledge that this film might be better appreciated by women, because it very much is a story about the woman experience, but yeah, for me, I just kind of struggled to enjoy this film. I can see what Kristen Stewart was going for, I can see the artistic vision, but for me it was just a bit too pretentious, a bit too slow and repetitive, and there were times where I was a bit bored as well. So no, personally I wouldn't watch this again. Question 2, do I recommend it for you guys? If you're a fan of Kristen Stewart and you want to see what she's capable of, you know, behind the camera instead of in front of it for once, then yeah, go check it out. Also, Imogen Poots is fantastic in this. If you want to see a really solid performance from her, it's worth it for that. But generally, no. Like, for casual moviegoers, I don't think this is going to be a film that most people will appreciate. Unless you're like a proper cinephile. I think everyday people would struggle to enjoy this one for the reasons I just mentioned in the last question, you know, because it's slow and artsy-fartsy and a bit repetitive. It's essentially a student film, just with more notable names attached to it. So honestly, no, I don't really recommend this one, but I'm not your mother. If you want to watch it, watch it. And third question, what score to give out of 10? I respect Kristen Stewart for taking such a big swing on her debut feature. If she wants to continue directing films, I'd happily watch whatever she wants to make next for her sophomore feature, because there really were sparks of, you know, an interesting director in here. I just don't think she's fully harnessed those sparks to create the fire yet. But in all honesty, I just didn't really enjoy this film all that much, and that's my truth. So I'm gonna give the Chronology of Water a score of 3.5 out of 10. But remember guys, it's just one bloke's opinion. Love to hear your thoughts on the Chronology of Water. Are you excited for it? Have you seen it? If you have, what do you make of this film? If you guys want more coverage from the Cannes Film Festival, be sure to click that subscribe button and be sure to follow us on all the socials for my reactions and stuff. You can find all the links to those in that video description down below. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. For more things related to movies, TV, the Oscars, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Hearfield, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!